The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding. Robert Hayes, billionaire, CEO, a man used to control, stepped into his marble-floored office. The city skyline gleamed behind the glass walls. Everything looked perfect. But then, he froze. Right in front of his desk, his son Ethan, frail, wheelchair-bound, eyes wide with wonder, was laughing. And beside him, a waitress in a simple cafe uniform was spinning him around in circles, pretending they were astronauts. Robert's throat tightened. His son hadn't laughed like that in months. The waitress, her name tag read Sophia, froze when she noticed him. The color drained from her face. She quickly set Ethan's chair down, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I'm sorry, sir, she stammered. He just looked sad. I was trying to cheer him up. Robert didn't say a word. His jaw clenched. Security had strict instructions. No one was allowed in his private office, especially around his son. But Ethan turned toward him, still giggling. Dad. Sophia made me fly. Like a rocket. That word, Dad, hit Robert harder than any boardroom battle ever could. Sophia's eyes flicked nervously between them. She held a tray with a half-empty cup of hot chocolate and a tiny paper plane folded from an old receipt. Silence hung in the air. The sound of the ticking wall clock suddenly felt deafening. Robert took a slow step forward. How did you even get in here? He asked, voice low but firm. Sophia hesitated. Your secretary asked for coffee. I brought it up. I didn't know he was here. Alone. Alone. Robert's eyes darkened. He turned sharply toward the hallway, where his assistant's desk sat empty. He could feel the anger rising, not just at Sophia, but at himself. He'd been in meetings all morning. His son had been waiting for him, again. Sophia looked at Ethan, then back at Robert. He said he missed you, she whispered softly. The words sliced through the room like a knife. Robert felt the walls closing in, his son's laughter fading into guilt. He exhaled, long and heavy, and looked at Sophia, this stranger who had somehow reached his son in a way he never could. For a moment, no one spoke. Just the faint hum of the city below. Then Ethan said, Dad, can Sophia stay? Please. Robert looked into his son's hopeful eyes. He opened his mouth to respond. But then his phone buzzed. A call from the hospital. He froze again. His pulse quickened. Sophia's smile faded. Is something wrong? She asked. Robert swallowed hard, staring at the screen. It's about your wife, Mr. Hayes, said the voice on the other end. The room went silent. Even Ethan stopped smiling. Robert's hand trembled as he ended the call. And in that moment, with his son, the waitress, and the weight of his world pressing in, something deep inside him began to crack. What could the hospital have said that left a man like Robert speechless? Before we go on, what do you think Sophia's real connection to Robert's family might be? A coincidence? Or something deeper? Robert's phone slipped slightly in his hand as the hospital's words echoed in his mind. His wife, Evelyn, the woman who'd been in and out of treatment for nearly a year, was in critical condition again. He could hear his pulse pounding in his ears. Sophia's eyes widened as she watched him pale. Mr. Hayes, is she all right? Robert blinked, his expression unreadable. They said she's unresponsive. I need to go. Without another word, he grabbed his coat and started toward the door. But then he stopped. Ethan's voice, small and trembling, broke the silence. Dad, can I come too? Robert turned. His son's hopeful eyes pierced right through him. The child's fingers gripped the edge of his wheelchair. He hesitated. No, Ethan. You stay here. I'll be back soon. The boy's face fell. Sophia bent down beside him, brushing a tear from his cheek. Hey, she whispered, your dad's going to take care of it, okay? We'll wait for him. Robert glanced back, conflicted. Something about Sophia's calm, protective presence made it easier to leave Ethan behind. Something about her felt safe. As he disappeared into the hallway, Sophia turned to Ethan. She forced a smile. So, tell me more about your rocket adventures. Ethan chuckled weakly. Mom used to do that. Before she got sick. Sophia's smile faltered. Your mom sounds amazing. She is, Ethan said softly. Dad says she's sleeping a lot now. But when she wakes up, she'll be okay. Sophia nodded, though her eyes shimmered with something unspoken. You know, when I was your age, my mom used to tell me stories that made me forget how scary things felt. Want to hear one? Ethan's eyes lit up. Yes, please. She began weaving a story about a little boy who built a rocket from dreams and paper, strong enough to reach the stars. Her voice was soft, full of warmth. As she spoke, Ethan's breathing steadied, his eyes half closing in peace. Outside, thunder rumbled over the city skyline. Rain streaked down the glass walls. Time seemed to slow. Hours later, the office door burst open. Robert stumbled in, rain-soaked, his face drawn tight. Sophia stood instantly. Is she? He shook his head. His voice cracked. She's gone. The word shattered the air. Ethan's eyes fluttered open. Gone? Where? Robert swallowed hard, trying to find the strength to answer. But before he could, Ethan began to cry. Soft, aching sobs that broke Robert's heart in half. Sophia knelt beside the boy, wrapping him gently in her arms. It's okay, Ethan, she whispered. She's not hurting anymore. Robert watched them, the woman and the boy, their silhouettes framed by the storm outside. Something in him shifted. 4 years, he'd been too busy building empires and making headlines. But in that moment, the only thing that mattered was right in front of him, and he didn't even know how to reach it. Sophia looked up at him, her voice trembling. He needs you, Mr. Hayes. Not your money. You. Her words hit him like lightning. He nodded slowly. I know. But as he moved closer, a small piece of paper fell from Sophia's pocket, a folded letter, yellowed at the edges. Robert bent down to pick it up. His eyes froze on the signature. Evelyn Hayes. He looked up sharply at Sophia, his heart racing. What is this? He demanded. Sophia's lips parted, but no sound came out. Ethan looked between them, confused. The rain intensified, tapping against the glass like a heartbeat. Finally, Sophia whispered, I didn't want you to find out like this. Robert stared, stunned. Find out what? She took a deep breath, tears filling her eyes. Evelyn wrote me that letter before she got sick. Because, she knew one day, you'd need help remembering how to be a father. Robert froze. The letter trembled in his hand. Who are you, Sophia? He whispered. Her answer would change everything. What do you think Sophia's true connection to Evelyn really is? A nurse, a friend, or something even deeper? The letter trembled in Robert's hand, as if it carried the weight of 1,000 memories. Evelyn's familiar handwriting curled across the paper. Graceful, steady, alive. Sophia stood still, eyes glistening. Please, just read it, she said quietly. Robert unfolded the note, his throat tightening with every word. Dear Robert, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't tell you myself. There's someone I want you and Ethan to meet. Someone who understands kindness in ways I never could explain. Her name is Sophia. Trust her. She will remind you of what really matters when I no longer can. Love. Evelyn. Robert's hand shook. She knew you, he asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Sophia nodded slowly. I met Evelyn a year ago. I was her nurse at the hospice. But she wasn't just my patient, she became my friend. Robert's eyes darted between her and the letter. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Because you wouldn't have listened, Sophia said softly. You built walls around yourself so high no one could reach you. Evelyn saw that. She wanted me to make sure Ethan never felt those walls. Her words landed heavy, slicing through the silence of the room. Ethan blinked up at them both. So, Mom knew you. Sophia smiled sadly. Yes, sweetheart. She used to talk about you all the time. About how brave you were, how much she wished your dad would stop hiding behind meetings and numbers. Robert turned away, pressing a hand against his eyes. Guilt flooded through him, raw and merciless. I thought I was protecting him, he muttered. After she got sick, I didn't know how to keep everything together. I threw myself into work. I thought that's what she'd want. Sophia stepped closer. She wanted you to live, Robert. Not just exist. Outside, the storm had calmed, leaving streaks of light breaking through the clouds. The golden glow cast long shadows across the office floor, soft, forgiving. Ethan rolled closer to his father. Dad, can we go see Mom's garden? Robert looked down at him, startled. The rooftop garden, Evelyn's favorite place, had been locked for months, ever since her last visit there. He nodded slowly. Yes, let's go. Minutes later, the elevator opened to a lush rooftop terrace. The scent of rain-soaked roses filled the air. Wind brushed gently against the leaves, whispering through the vines that Evelyn had once planted herself. Ethan smiled, his eyes lighting up. It still smells like her. Robert knelt beside him, running his hand over the petals. She used to say flowers don't stop growing just because the sun hides for a while. Sophia stood a few steps back, watching them, father and son, finally breathing in the same moment. She made me promise something before she passed, Sophia said softly. To remind you both that love doesn't disappear when someone's gone. It just changes where it lives. Robert turned toward her, tears welling in his eyes. Why did you keep helping us, even after she was gone? Sophia's smile trembled. Because Evelyn helped me too. I'd lost my little brother in an accident years ago. I thought I'd never feel hope again. But your wife, she taught me that healing happens when you give love, not when you hide from it. For a long moment, no one spoke. The city below seemed distant, just echoes of a world that didn't matter right now. Then Ethan whispered, Dad, can Sophia stay with us? Robert looked at Sophia, really seeing her, not as a stranger, but as a bridge between his past and his son's future. I think, he said slowly, voice breaking, Evelyn already wanted that. Sophia blinked, tears spilling freely now. As the clouds parted, a single ray of sunlight bathed them all in warmth. But deep down, Robert sensed this was only the beginning, because every letter from Evelyn had a second page. And he'd just realized, this one wasn't over. Do you think there's more Evelyn wanted Robert to discover? Maybe a hidden message, or something she left behind for Ethan. The next morning, sunlight poured through the wide glass windows of the penthouse office. For the first time in months, Robert wasn't buried in work. He sat at his desk, staring at Evelyn's letter again, tracing every curve of her handwriting. Something about the thickness of the paper caught his attention. He lifted one edge, and froze. There it was, another sheet, folded neatly beneath the first. Evelyn's handwriting continued, softer this time, like a whisper from another world. Robert, if you found this, then maybe you're finally ready. Our family isn't about what we built, it's about what we shared. I left something for you and Ethan in the garden. It's where our story began, and where yours should begin again. Robert stood abruptly. His heart pounded. Sophia, he called out. She appeared in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. What is it? He held up the second page. She left us something. In the garden. Minutes later, the 3 of them, Robert, Sophia, and Ethan, stepped into the rooftop garden again. The air was fresh, the sky streaked with morning light. Birds chirped on the railings, as if guarding Evelyn's secret. Ethan wheeled himself forward, scanning the flowers. Where do you think it is, Dad? Robert shook his head, kneeling beside a row of roses. I don't know, son. But if your mother hid something, she'd want it close to where she felt happiest. Sophia walked toward the far corner, the place Evelyn always sat to watch sunsets. Something glinted beneath a patch of lavender. She crouched down, brushed the petals aside, and gasped. A small wooden box, weathered by time, lay buried beneath the soil. Robert's hands trembled as he lifted it out. The lid creaked open, revealing a collection of photographs, letters, and a tiny silver locket. Inside the locket was a picture of Evelyn holding baby Ethan, smiling up at Robert. On the back, engraved words shimmered in the light. "When you forget how to love, look here." Robert's voice cracked. "She always knew I'd lose myself." Sophia gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "No. She knew you'd find yourself again, through him." Ethan reached into the box and pulled out a sealed envelope. "There's another letter, Dad." Robert opened it carefully. Evelyn's words flowed across the page, raw, honest, and heartbreakingly tender. "If Ethan is reading this, it means he's growing faster than I imagined. My little explorer, remember, your heart is your greatest compass. And Robert, promise me one thing. Don't let grief make you hard. Don't forget how to laugh with him. Let the world in again. Love isn't weakness, it's the only thing that lasts." Robert couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears streamed down his face as he knelt beside his son. "I promise," he whispered. "I promise, Evelyn." Sophia stood beside them, tears silently falling down her cheeks. The garden felt alive, as if Evelyn herself were there, watching, smiling. The air shimmered with quiet peace. Ethan looked up at Sophia. "Mom was right about you," he said softly. "You make people remember." Sophia knelt beside him, her smile trembling. "Your mom made me remember too." For the first time, Robert took both their hands in his. Father, son, and the woman his wife had trusted with her final wish. But deep down, he felt there was still something Evelyn wanted them to do. The last page of her second letter mentioned one final line, barely legible beneath a tear stain. "You'll know it's time when the stars come out." Robert looked at the horizon, heart pounding. What did she mean by that? That night, the rooftop garden shimmered under a velvet sky. The city below buzzed with light and life, but up here, everything was quiet, peaceful. Robert sat beside Ethan, who was wrapped in a blanket, his small telescope aimed at the stars. Sophia stood nearby, arms crossed gently, watching them both. Ethan pointed up. "Dad, that one's the North Star. Mom used to tell me to find it when I got scared." Robert smiled faintly. "She used to tell me the same thing." Sophia's voice broke the silence. "Maybe that's what she meant. You'll know it's time when the stars come out." Robert turned to her. "Time for what?" "To say goodbye," she whispered. "And to start living again." For a long while, none of them spoke. The sound of wind brushed softly through the garden leaves. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang. Then Ethan said, "Dad, can we make a wish?" Robert nodded. "Of course, son." They both closed their eyes. The city lights flickered below, like reflections of heaven. When they opened them again, Sophia had moved closer, holding something, a small lantern. The wooden box from earlier sat beside her, now filled with lavender petals. "I think Evelyn wanted this," she said softly. "A way to send her light back to the sky." Together, they placed the locket and one of Evelyn's letters inside the lantern. Ethan grinned through his tears. "She'll see it from up there." Robert's hand shook as he lit the flame. The lantern lifted slowly, drifting upward, glowing golden against the night. All three of them watched it rise, higher, smaller, until it disappeared among the stars. Ethan whispered, "Good night, Mom." Robert exhaled, a heavy sob catching in his throat. "Good night, my love." Sophia reached out, gently resting a hand on his shoulder. "She'd be proud of you," she murmured. He turned to her, eyes red but soft. "She'd be proud of you too. You kept her promise." Sophia smiled sadly. "No, Robert. We did." For the first time in years, Robert didn't feel like the billionaire who had everything. He just felt human. A father. A man learning to breathe again. They sat there in silence, gazing up at the stars, three souls stitched together by one woman's love. Ethan yawned, resting his head against his father's arm. Dad, can Sophia stay with us forever? Robert looked at Sophia, then at the stars. A faint smile tugged at his lips. I think your mom already decided that, kiddo. Sophia laughed softly, brushing a tear away. The sound was like music, fragile, hopeful, real. Below them, the city kept moving. Cars. Lights. Life. But up on that rooftop, something eternal had taken root: forgiveness, love, and the quiet strength of second chances. Robert leaned back, looking at the endless sky. The stars blinked above them, silent witnesses to a promise finally kept. He closed his eyes and whispered, almost to himself, "Thank you, Evelyn." Sophia heard him. And though she said nothing, she knew that somewhere, among those glittering stars, Evelyn Hayes was smiling. Because love never really leaves. It just finds new hands to hold it. What would you have done if you were in Robert's place? Could you forgive yourself, and open your heart again after losing someone you loved so deeply?